Welcome to Zoom. Enter your meeting ID. Enter your participant ID followed by pound. Otherwise, just press pound to continue. You are in the meeting now. There is one.
It was on the other side, wasn't it? Yeah. It wasn't that part.
Welcome to Zoom. Enter your meeting ID followed by pound. Enter your participant ID. You are in the meeting now. You are the first participant. Please stand by. This meeting is being recorded.
get to something written.
Good morning. Call this meeting to order. This Amador County Board of Supervisors meeting for Tuesday, August 27, 2024. Would you please join us in the Pledge of Allegiance? Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America,
To the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, liberty and justice for all.
Well, thank you. The board met in closed session this morning. The items we met on were item 1, conference for labor negotiators. Update was given. Item 2, conference with county council, anticipated litigation. Item 2A, claim of Michael Anthony Powell. Claim number 24-009. This claim was denied. Item 3, confidential minutes were approved. And first order of business, Supervisor Brown has a contagious illness, and as such, he's going to Zoom in from home. And if it would suit the board, we'd like to have a motion for him to be able to...
I'll make a motion to permit Supervisor Brown to attend remotely for health reasons.
Second.
A motion, a second, all in favor?
Aye.
I think we need to do the roll call.
Oh.
Yeah.
Chairman Onetto,
Aye.
Vice Chairman Crew,
Aye.
Supervisor Brown,
Aye.
Supervisor Forster,
Aye.
Supervisor Axe.
Aye.
That's what carries unanimous.
I guess we should also wish Supervisor Brown happy birthday too. He now has COVID.
A birthday present.
Tight.
You know, at this time, we had a gentleman pass away recently. He was a fierce advocate for off-road motorbiking, Mr. Dave Pickett. So I'd like to have a moment of silence for Mr. Pickett, please. Well, thank you. Yeah, Dave he is very involved in AMA 36, and he really fought hard to keep access to public lands for off-roading. He will be missed, so, well, thank you. Is there also, we'll do that later. Any members of the public would like to address this board on any issue that's not on the agenda?
pen.
Open.
Jennifer's got one.
And I was remiss, if you would please state your name for the record and sign in.
Okay. Lois McDonald, I'm a Jackson resident. And I want to give you an update on New California. We've been here quite a few times to explain through the couple of years that we have been working on getting a new state. And as we see, the state has just deteriorated more and more. It now has reached a point where financially, we are billions of dollars in debt. And there is no way that California can dig themselves out of this hole. And so this is our opportunity. And so we have been following the example of how West Virginia became a state. So Virginia, when it seceded from the Union as part of the revolution of the Civil War, they went with the South and decided not to be part of the Union. But the western part of the state did not want to go along with seceding. They wanted to be part of the United States. And so the Constitution says that in order for a state to split and become another state, you have to get permission from the legislature of the state. Well, there was no way they could do that because there was no legislature. The states, they had actually left. They had left the Union, and there was no opportunity for them to do that. So what were they going to do? And so they came up with a plan, and the plan was to declare themselves as a restored state of Virginia. And once they went to Congress, and President Lincoln helped them, encouraged the Congress to approve this so that they could become a state. So they became the restored state of Virginia. Now they were a state with a friendly legislature, which gave permission to become a separate state of West Virginia. And that's how they became. So now we look at California. The Constitution requires three things for a state to provide. First one is a Republican form of government. Second one is to have safety at the borders, and the third to have safety of the streets. So look at California. Our borders are overrun. Our prisons they've let thousands and thousands out of the prison to be on the streets. And we do not have a Republican form of government. We have the large areas of urban areas with lots of people, population, they completely run the state. And whereas a Republican form of government allows for everybody to have a say. So if you look at the Constitution of the United States and the way our government is set up, we have a Senate, which has 2 members from every state. The tiniest state and the largest state get 2 members. So they have a representation there. California, we don't have that. We have our state senator has 13 counties. With New California, each county will have a senator. Each county will have a state. We'll have a Republican form of government again. And so New California, we're in the same position as West Virginia. We have a legislature that will not permit us to leave. Our California has totally turned communistic. They're totally dictatorship. We have no say here. The people are more and more, they're leaving the state. They're leaving the state. The businesses are leaving the state. This is not the state I was born into and grew up in. And so what are we going to do? We are going to declare that California state has left the union because they are not providing for the people what the Constitution tells them they have to provide. And so we are saying that California is an insurrection against the Constitution. And so our new California, we have declared that California is in a state of insurrection against the United States Constitution because Californians are suffering from a tyrannical state government which fails to provide a Republican form of governance. And California has a mono-party political system. The people have no say in this state at all. And so we have declared that, and this was done in Sacramento at the state capitol. We have declared that California is now going to be a reorganized state. So we are a reorganized state. We are going to provide what a state is supposed to provide. And so it's going to be a reorganized state, and that California has seceded from the Union, the same way that Virginia has seceded from the Union, because they have not provided the things they're supposed to provide. And so there is the only opportunity we have is to have a new state. We have had representation in Congress, and we are sending people again next week to Congress and also to the Senate to get permission to become a reorganized state. Otherwise, they have to look at California as being billions and billions of dollars in debt. There's no way that we can climb out of the debt that we're in. And our governor keeps spending money like he has it, and he doesn't have any money. And so the only opportunity is for us we can't fix California. We've got to reorganize it and start over the way it's supposed to be, with the Constitution, way we've been set up, and we have a binding contract, again, with the Constitution to provide for our people, to have a Republican form of government, and to have a say in what goes on with our government. So it's the government, the federal government has bailed California out in the past, but now the debt is so extreme, and also there are 7 other states that are in just as bad a position. The government doesn't have the money. The government is broke too. The federal government did not have the money. And so look at what's happened to our state, and what are we going to do about it? We need to start over. With New California, we will have a clean credit rating and be able to finish the 5 dams that have been approved by the feds. California state has refused to build these dams. And when we have these new dams, we will have inexpensive water and power. And we'll bring our businesses will come back to California because they will not have all the bylaws and all the rules and all the regulations that have clamped down our business to where it makes it impossible to make a living. And then we'll get even SpaceX, Elon Musk has finally decided to leave. You know what finally got him?
Time to wrap it up, Lois.
Sorry?
About time to wrap it up.
Okay. No, this is the last statement I'll make. Elon Musk, the final blow for him to leave California was when Governor Brown signed the law that has that schools do not have to tell the parents when the children are changing their sex.
Governor Newsom, you mean?
Governor Newsom, what did I say? I'm sorry. Governor Newsom, when he signed that bill, Elon Musk said, I am leaving California with his billions of dollars of infrastructure and all the employees that he has, and all the money that his company brings to California. He is gone. He's going to Texas. So what are we going to do?
Oh,
Thank you very much.
it's a problem, no doubt about it, but, I think, you know, it's like when a train's running down a track at full speed and the track ends, it's normally not pretty, and that's kind of where we're heading, but I think we're on that train, I don't think we'll be able to get off.
This is the only way to get
Thank you.
off. We have to start over. It's the only way to get off. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Chris Strong, Ione resident. I think what Lois is saying makes a lot of sense. I'm part of New California as well. And, you're right, it is flying off the track at 90 miles an hour, 120, whatever you want to call it. And, we're basically, I know it sounds outlandish what we're talking about because it's never happened in a long, well, it has happened, but not for a long time. But when this train does go off the track, what's going to happen? We've, in our discussions with people in Congress, they realize that, I mean, we are talking about, is that me? 100 billions a year of deficit in this state, and we're going into a recession, and there's no curtailing of spending, there's only decrease in revenue. More and more corporations are leaving, so we're simply providing ahead of time a constitutional plan and the framework so it's set up in every county across the state so that there can be a transition. And I think if you talk to people in this county, they would all want everything that New California is providing, both parties. And so if you could read these papers, New California has been mislabeled as an insurrectionist or secessionist movement. We're wanting to maintain the union and maintain order and maintain borders and safety and representation in our government. And when California asks to get bailed out, or maybe they secede and try to become their own nation, sort of connected to China or whatever, when that happens, we're going to need a plan to transfer back. So the reason we're coming out here, I know you guys may think this is a waste of time what we're talking about, but when this happens, the counties, we're letting the counties know that there is a plan, and we're asking for your ear, your serious attention. And I mean, look at what we're passing down to our children. The public high school, there's gender confusion in the bathrooms. There's forced vaccinations on kids. There's trafficking of children across the border. At some point, we have to put our foot down and say this isn't going to happen, and the Constitution tells us that we have to provide these new guards. So we appreciate your attention, and we thank you for your, looking at this matter. Thank you.
All right. Thank you.
Good morning, Chuck Riley, Amador County CAO. I wanted to introduce Angela Schibel, our new VSO, Veteran Services Officer. Terry is still here until the end of September, but Angela has begun the transition. She's here now, and if you'd like to ask her any questions, I don't know if you want to talk about the hours. She's working to better define the hours that the VSO office will be available for meeting with the public. So.
Thank you. It's nice to see everyone. I'm so honored to have this.
Good to see you again.
Thank you. And to have this privilege and to support and educate the veterans of Amador County. I think there's a lot of misconceptions out there with benefits, and I'd like to help them see what benefits can assist them in their life, especially our aging veterans. But right now, I've just been in the office for 5 days, and I've established a couple of things and have gone to a small outreach. I've been on the radio, and I've established some new hours for the office. So Monday through Wednesday will be by appointment only. Thursdays will be a full walk-in day. I'll be there to assist anyone with small needs, larger needs, we can always adjust to an appointment. But Fridays are reserved for the things that I need to take care of as a Veteran Service Officer. And so I just want to say thank you to the Board of Supervisors and the community, and I'm just here to listen to all the veterans.
Well, welcome aboard.
Thank you.
And Terry will be coming back to the board. We'll have his retirement resolution, and he'll be here second meeting of September. We'll see him, and he's still here for a while. Yeah.
Yeah, I have a question. You said Monday through Wednesday is appointment only. Thursday, you'll be open for anybody.
Yes.
Friday is reserved for matters you have to do.
Yes.
If somebody comes Monday through Wednesday and you don't have an appointment,
I'll take
are
care
they
of
free
them.
to come in?
Yes, I'll take care of them. It's just, I want to make sure that there's a good flow on Thursdays for those questions to be answered. And then when I have appointments, it's usually because I have a claim to work on specifically and I need the privacy for that veteran. So, but I will take care of the veterans anytime they come.
Okay, so,
I may have to schedule an appointment, but yet I will still talk with them, see what they need, and take care of their business.
so generally, you're gonna be there Monday through Wednesday also, just appointments
yeah.
are preferred.
Yeah, I'm there 8 to 4:30.
Okay. Well, thank you.
Okay, thank you.
Any other members of the public? Well, seeing none, something I would like to say a little bit, talk about the state of California is, the way I've always seen it, a child is a parent's, it belongs to a parent. What I'm seeing is anymore the states come in and it's kind of, the new story is, well, you raise a child, but it's kind of not yours. As far as I'm concerned, my child's my child. I think that's how a lot of the people feel in this county. I think the state is going down a very bad path. When you start hearing the school districts are saying, we're going to do health procedures to your children and maybe not notify you, I don't like that, but I think ultimately it's up to the public to weigh in at some point and say, hey, we've had enough. Anyway, moving on, looking for approval agenda. I got an item I'd like to note. We had one, item 4C. It was advertised and notice of public hearing. It was listed on the regular agenda, so we're going to hear item 4C at 10:30, and it will be held over to a future meeting, but we will hear it and have a comment from.
Actually, Supervisor Neto, I think we're gonna go forward at 10:30. Because the operator has received the mailed notice. But I think we can, because it was advertised in the paper.
If you're okay with that, I'm fine with it. So item 4C then will be heard at 10:30. Moving on, looking for an approval agenda.
So moved. Second.
A motion by Crew and a second by Forster. Roll call.
Chairman Oneto,
Aye.
Vice Chairman Crew,
Aye.
Supervisor Brown,
Aye.
Supervisor Forster,
Aye.
Supervisor Axe.
Aye.
Carries unanimous. Moving on, the approval of item on the consent agenda. We had a request on item 5Y to have that pulled and heard at a future meeting. So that's on the consent agenda, so we'll pull item 5I and we'll hear it at a later. We will take comment today, but we'll hold it over to a future meeting to address it.
So 5I, the lease agreement for Mark Cornell.
5Y.
Why? Okay.
So with that change, looking for a motion?
Move approval with that, change.
Motion by Forster, second by Crew.
Chairman Oneto,
Aye.
Vice Chairman Crew,
Aye.
Supervisor Brown,
Aye.
Supervisor Forster,
Aye.
Supervisor Axe.
Aye.
Okay, so consent agenda is approved unanimous. Moving down the regular agenda, item 4A. This is UCCE presentation of the Cal Fresh Healthy Living Program by Kathleen Carter.
you.
Good morning.
Morning.
Can everyone hear me okay?
Good morning.
Awesome. My name
Yeah.
is Kathleen Carter. I work for the University of California Cooperative Extension. I am a nutrition educator here in Amador County for the CalFresh Healthy Living program. I'd like to thank you for giving me the time today to speak with all of you. My goal is to introduce our program and the work that we've been doing and our success that we've had in the last few years here in the county. Next slide, please. The packet that is in front of all of you has a copy of these slides as well as a few other things we're going to get into in this presentation today. So a few parts of what we're going to talk about today is the SNAP-Ed agency breakdown for the state of California and what that looks like and who the implementing agencies are for both state and locally. We're also going to talk about UCC overall. Amador County is a part of a multi-county partnership, which is Amador, Calaveras, Tuolumne, and Placerville, and so we refer to it as the Central Sierra. We're also going to get into...
You mean El Dorado County?
Yes, El Dorado. And we're also going to talk about a few county and statewide health data information, a few of our programmatic collaborations, and your return on investment for UCCE, as well as the sites that CalFresh Healthy Living serves in the county, a little bit of our community engagement, and our programming and publications. So SNAP-Ed stands for the Supplemental Nutrition Assistance Program. So the EBT side of that, formerly known as food stamps, there's another federally funded side known as SNAP-Ed. And so in California, that's known as the CalFresh Healthy Living Program. In California specifically, we have 4 implementing agencies: Catholic Charities, Department of Aging, Department of Public Health, and CalFresh Healthy Living, UCCE. In Amador County specifically, if we go to the next slide, you'll see that those local implementing agencies are the Department of Public Health and CalFresh Healthy Living, UCCE, here in Central Sierra. So our UCCE, we have a variety of programs. Some of these might look a little familiar based off of previous presentations. I know that Brian Allen came and met with you all the last meeting that you had to present on something that he was working on with UCCE. We also have agriculture, UC Master Gardeners, UC Master Food Preservers, forestry, and things like that. And on the next slide, I'm going to give you a breakdown of the CalFresh program here in the county. So like I said, we're a part of a multi-county partnership known as the Central Sierra. Across those 4 counties, we have 5 offices with 9 educators throughout those offices. For El Dorado County, that's Placerville and Tahoe. We have got 2 coordinators, 1 supervisor, and 1 advisor. In Amador County specifically, there's only 1 educator, which is myself. And then we have 1 coordinator and 1 advisor for all of UCCE that just happens to be based here in Amador. And we're also based in the Jackson office at the GSA building off Airport Road. Next slide, please. A little bit of background on why CalFresh Healthy Living is a presence here in the county. We're looking at a population of about 41,000 here in the county. 30% of that population is experiencing obesity. 11.1% of that population is experiencing food insecurity. When we look at it on a statewide level, those numbers are pretty similar, but they're vastly different when we look at how many people live in the county versus how many people live in California. One of the reasons, or one of the purposes of my program and implementing nutrition education is to address these factors at a local level and inspire the community to make these changes themselves. So a little bit about the funding for UCCE here in the county. In that folder that I've given you, you have a brochure for the Central Sierra snapshot for last federal fiscal year. Inside of that, you'll see a pie chart with the funding breakdown a little bit more. But essentially, the Amador County themselves invest about $150,000 into all UCCE programs. And then another $970,000 is invested from the university, advisor grants, and local community fundraising. My program specifically, CalFresh Healthy Living, we are federally funded. So that $970,000 is what makes up, or a part of it is what makes up our funding. So I also wanted to take the time and just say thank you for your investment into UCCE programs. It allows my program to partner with some of our other ones like the UC Master Gardeners, 4-H, agriculture, and Master Food Preservers into allowing us to do more of our work here in the county. Next slide, please. So for CalFresh here in the county, this is a list of the sites that we serve. We've got a few in almost every major city: in Jackson, Sutter Creek, Ione, Pioneer, and Plymouth. This is a majority of them are community-based organizations, as well as some early childhood education sites, family resource centers, food banks, and such. And if you go to the next slide, you'll see a breakdown of what those look like on a map as well. So thank you for your website for giving me this map. Next slide, please. So a little highlight on our community engagement work. We partner with the Department of Public Health here in the county to lead and organize the Amador Connecting Hands meetings. This is a coalition meeting that meets about every quarter, and so far since federal fiscal year 2022, we've grown to about 21 different organizations. And those organizations vary from Interfaith Food Bank, the Resource Connection, Amador Child Care Council, Department of Public Health, and many more, including ATCA, ACUSD, that sort of thing. Our goal right now, what we're working on, is developing a food security resource guide. The last one was developed in 2019, so our hope is to get that back up and running to be dispersed to residents in the county in hopes for them to be able to access resources to combat food insecurity. A little highlight of our publications and programming. Last federal fiscal year, we were featured in the Farms of Amador newsletter. This was for our partnership with the UC Master Gardeners and Farms of Amador for their work with the Seed Project Grant Award Program. We worked with ACUSD schools to implement garden and nutrition education and utilize that grant award in helping them revitalize their garden spaces. And then the next slide, you also have a copy of this next article from the Amador Ledger in your folders. This was a partnership with the UC Master Gardeners. We worked with them to develop a composting area at Arc of Amador, which is a day program that works with adults with developmental disabilities. And we taught garden and nutrition education to folks over at Arc of Amador. And the UC Master Gardeners, through their work with Amador Solid Waste, were able to donate a composting geobin to Arc of Amador. So one of the volunteers for the UC Master Gardeners wrote an amazing article in the Amador Ledger highlighting this work. Next slide, please. So a overall UCCE Central Sierra program that we also work with is the Amador County Farm Day. This event is organized and led by UCCE 4-H. It's been going on since about 2012 here in the county, and it serves as a field trip for ACUSD third grade students to experience agriculture and natural resources and all of the related things at Amador County Fairgrounds in Plymouth. It happens once a year in September. The last 2 years, we've had the pleasure of having 2 separate tables, one for a tasting and one for a physical activity booth. Our tastings have been graciously donated by Upcountry Farms here in Amador County. They donated salad turnips, and this year they're donating carrots. So we're really excited to see how that works out. And next, please. A few other community events that we've been a part of is the Celebrate Your Children event, which happened in April of this year. We passed out 131 My Plate bookmarks to youth and their families, as well as Tribal TANF's nutrition outreach event. We did a gardening lesson with about 10 youth and families that attended this event. We did chia seeds in a little biodegradable pot that they got to take home, and they decorated it as a superhero, which was super fun. And then again, Amador County Farm Day, you've got the same 2 pictures, but we passed out tastings to about 326 participants. Again, that was those salad turnips and the physical activity games that we worked with. Next slide, please. One of the great partnerships that we are happy to be involved with is Motherlode Land Trust. If you've ever gotten the chance to go out to the Jackson Community Farm off Jackson Gate Road, they've got a great garden space over there, and we've been able to implement garden education with both Arc of Amador and Tribal TANF for almost a year now. Arc of Amador's lessons began in November of last year. Tribal TANF began in April, and we've done everything from zucchini to lettuce to leafy greens. And with Tribal TANF, their bed right now has Three Sisters, which is corn, squash, and beans, as well as a salsa garden of tomatoes and peppers. So it's been a really great opportunity to utilize Mother Lode Land Trust and their farm in serving our sites with garden education when they don't have a garden space themselves. Next, please. And then again, with the UC Master Gardeners, our big thing this year has been compost. So here's a few more pictures, including another lesson that we did with ARC of Amador to check in on their composting, and then one with Amador Senior Center as well in developing that compost area for them as well. And next slide. Yeah, so two of the main things that my program implements is indirect and direct nutrition education. Indirect allows us to reach a lot more people. I am one educator here in the county, so indirect gives me a greater chance of reaching more folks in the county that qualify for our services. The ways that we do that is with monthly newsletters, Harvest of the Month, and Nutrition Corners. On the left here, you'll see a Harvest of the Month tasting. In the back of that picture on the left, you'll see a Nutrition Corner. This just has things like our newsletter, recipes, and garden flyers and things like that. In the middle, you'll see an evaluation being done by one of our participants from First 5 Amador after a tasting. They're letting us know what they think about the tasting. And then on the right, you see our monthly newsletter that has different nutritional facts. Total reach for this year, as so far, has been about 24,000 participants in the county through indirect nutrition education. And then direct nutrition, all that means essentially is that we're utilizing evidence-based curriculum. So we're bringing in that university research that's been pilot tested and evaluated for its efficacy. And we're bringing that to Amador County and teaching qualified sites for at least 20 minutes at a time. And so on the left, you see a picture of me implementing a lesson with ATCA Head Start. We taught garden and nutrition from a curriculum called Go, Glow, Grow. So they're passing around a ball filled with different fruits and vegetables on it. In the middle, you'll see a lesson that was taught to tribal TANF families. It was utilizing a cookbook that was developed in partnership with Native American organizations. This lesson specifically focused on leafy greens, and then we did a cooking demonstration. And then lastly, on the right, you'll see a cooking class that we do with ARC of Amador. This cooking class utilizes an adapted curriculum for adults with disabilities and focuses on different aspects of nutrition and gardening. Again, total for this year, we've got about 53 lessons, 45 hours of instruction, and about 250 participants that we've been able to reach through direct nutrition education. And lastly, I know this is a lot of information, but lastly, one of the things that my program does is the extender model. This allows us to reach more people. Again, I'm one educator here in the county, so one of the great things that we do is we teach other staff at our qualifying sites how to teach our curriculum. That's something that's currently happening. I led a training in August earlier this month for Catch ECE. It's a physical activity curriculum designed for early childhood education. So we taught 2 staff in the August training. We're hoping for about 16 to 18 other staff from both ATCA Head Starts and First 5 Amador to be in attendance for the September training. So we're really excited about that. The next thing is the Stanford Medicine Our Voice initiative. This is an initiative that we're hoping to implement with Nexus's Upcountry Community Center, specifically their senior population that attend their senior socials once a month. The Our Voice initiative employs community members to make changes in their own local environment, and it gives them the structure and the confidence to do so. So we work with the Stanford to develop that data and those reports to present to the community members for them to make those changes themselves. So it's a really great opportunity for both the center to change their backyard space into a community gardening effort, but it's also a really great opportunity for us to implement the Our Voice initiative here in the county on a local level. The last thing is the Farmers Market Initiative. This is something we're hoping to do once the season ends in October. I know it can get really hectic during the summer, but our goal here is to increase the amount of folks who have EBT to utilize it at the farmers market, and we do that through outreach and marketing to show them that that's an option. So I'm currently going to be working with the farmers market managers once they get a little bit more free time on their hands after the markets are over to get EBT up and running and to help them implement the outreach and the marketing for that. So I know that was a lot of information, but if you have any questions, my business card is in the folders that I've provided you with. Feel free to email me or call me. I'd love to discuss this further with you if you're interested. But again, thank you for your time and have a great rest of your Tuesday.
Yeah, appreciate the presentation. I will say if I had to eat only a peach from a grocery store, I'd probably never eat peaches again, because you think, who'd want to eat those things? They're tasteless.
Absolutely, yeah. And you know, one of the great things about our program is working with those local farms to show people that locally grown food tastes really, really good. And sometimes it can be more affordable too, depending on the season.
Well, it's a lot tastier, and I used to love cantaloupes. I've almost stopped buying them because I guess they have hybridized cantaloupes now, and they're kind of tasteless. A while back, I got a good one. It was red apple and Calaveras. Like, wow.
I think it's the strawberries that are, you know, they're really big and pretty, but they don't taste very good. But the place up on Upper Ridge Road, they grow really good strawberries.
Yeah, the difference is amazing.
Yeah, it is. It's really shocking sometimes. But again, one of the goals for us is to introduce people to those fruits and vegetables, show them where they can buy them at a local level or an affordable level, but also show them that there's different ways that they can prepare them. Any other questions?
You know, on your health data page,
Yes.
I'm hard to find. These must be state numbers that they're coming out with, Amador versus California.
So I got both Amador numbers and California numbers from countyhealthrankings.org and feedingamerica.org.
Yeah, I've been all over the state, and I find it hard to believe that people in Amador are more obese than the state average, but who knows? But also, on the statistics, I think when you look at rural and Amador counties, almost 69.2, rural and the statewide is 5.8. I think that 5.8 is low, because if you look at the rural counties, rural areas and counties across the state, we have our RCRC organization that has 35 counties in it. So I think rural, by their definition, is much lower than what most people would look at it as.
Yeah, and it very well could be. The crazy thing about the data that I've found, at least, the 69% for Amador, that was as of this year. In California, that number comes from a different year. And so it can, you know, depend on the data that they're utilizing for that.
I would go to Rural County Representatives California and see what some of their data says, because they represent, I mean, their county sizes are anything up to 300, I believe 300,000, is that right? So it's, a lot of those counties, like Placer County, have a lot of rural areas. Even San Diego County, they have a lot of rural spaces in their county.
Yeah, but then you got like the Bay Area and LA and pretty urban.
I mean, how do you measure that? The number of people per square mile or something like that? Some kind of area, population per area? Or?
For the rural?
Yeah, the rural. If it's below a certain threshold, it's rural. If it's above, it's urban.
Yeah, I'm not personally too sure.
Okay.
Those numbers, again, come from different sites for that data, and they pull those numbers in a way that I'm not too sure about.
Okay. Yeah.
Okay. Any members of the public like to comment on this? Seeing none, well, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Next up is item 4B. This is General Services Administration. The Chinese gambling hall back wall in Fiddletown, having structural issues.
Chairman, members of the board, John Hopkins. Yeah, we were notified back in April that one of the properties the county owns, which is a historic property, the back wall had failed. Had staff go out and take a look at that. I have Mark Oliver here if you guys want to talk to him about any of the specifics of what the property condition looks like. But as we started to dive into it, we did do a survey of the property because we didn't know exactly what we owned. We do now, but I decided to stop, and after talking with Chuck, to bring it back to the board to see how you want to proceed with this. And the only funding mechanism that I've been able to come up with, even vetting with the Fiddletown Historic Preservation Society, our own grants administrator, there don't seem to be any grants available, but insurance. And our risk manager, Sarah Doherty, is here too to talk to the board if you choose that route, to let you know what is or is not covered under insurance. But there is a $25,000 deductible if you wanted to move forward with that particular process. So at that
It might
time,
be covered under insurance, but it'll also cause our insurance rates to go up.
that's something you can talk to Sarah about. I'm not sure how that all works. Because I know we're in a pool, so I don't know that, we're big enough to cause that to increase.
Yeah, I'll talk to Sarah, because there aren't too many times you
Sarah, you want to?
file a claim and your insurance rates stay where they are.
Good morning, members of the board. Sarah Duarte, Risk Management. So our premiums are based on experience, which would be claims. So yes, if we ended up filing a claim, depending on how the actual came in from that claim, we would be impacted. I don't think it would be too much, but because it's both risk, I mean, we have a total insured value, which is all of our property values combined over our whole county that we own. That's part of what the premium's based off of. And that changes every year slightly. Next year, we are due for full appraisals on every single property under 1 million valued. So every single property will be evaluated. And I don't know what that'll look like. I mean, our premiums will change just based on that if we have increased values from what they had previously, but also our experience, which is the claims we've made.
Okay.
And we have minimal claims. We've had a few vehicle claims, and this would be one of the biggest claims we have
I was a little concerned
had
about,
altogether.
yeah, I was a little concerned about what is covered, meaning the soft cost versus the hard construction cost or replacement, refurbishment cost. And I don't know that, so far I think Sarah's just said nothing's been denied so far, but I'm not sure how that works.
So I inquired back in June when we first started this discussion, and they say according to our memorandum of coverage, nothing should be excluded. We have what's called replacement cost, which is that they will pay for whatever would bring the property up to pre-loss condition. And we did a full appraisal on this property back in 2015, so they're aware of what the condition was as of that time.
So it seems as if what she's telling you, we have a $25,000 deductible and everything else would be covered if you chose to move that direction.
However, with that being said, with the property program, we do pay up front and then are reimbursed. So that is something to consider.
So if the board wanted to move forward, we're going to have to, I think we're probably a couple $100,000 for that particular project. You're going to.
I think at a minimum, a couple $100,000 by the looks of it in the pictures, but that's $25,000 that we wouldn't be able to put in the roads.
That's true. And that's why, sometimes, the building is vacant. It's, seldom shown. You can also just take a picture and chalk it up to history. So, that's a decision the board needs to decide upon.
One thing I would wonder about too, I haven't seen it inside the building recently. But look at the pictures, it looks almost like you got a sheer face there, where the rock has a sheer, like a slip face. I'd say, maybe a little bit of water, but probably more that sheer face than anything, because you see slides all the time. When you have a sheer face, the rock slides and moves, and it looks to me like that's what happened right there. And you probably got the same thing going on.
Marco, you want to come up and talk about that, what you saw out there?
Mark Oliveria. Yeah, I went out there with a geotechnical firm, and they didn't have anything in writing yet. But they said, yeah, you're exactly what you're saying, and it's going to get worse the more water we get. All of us know how bad the winters have been the last two years. We've got an abundant amount of water. I don't even think the water was coming off the hill. I think it was coming through the hill because the water table was so high. And that rock got so wet, it just couldn't hold any.
Yeah, it's wet, and also if you get air exposure.
Yeah.
Water, air, and you don't have the sun here, but you get water, air, sun, and you look at all these cut banks and the roads. They over the years they start moving.
And with that, because that one section has gone, the other sections are vulnerable now too. So that's what we're trying to decide what you guys want to do with.
Really I would think about all you really do is go in there with and hopefully you don't cause more damage, but if you had like a little hammer and put some steel rods in there and then pour some cement.
that was discussed, and the geotechnical engineer that was there, geologist, he frowned upon putting any kind of drill into that rock.
Yeah.
He was looking at it very closely, and there were sections that could go at any point.
Yeah, that might cause more slippage.
Absolutely.
So then what do you do?
Okay, so some of the things that were discussed was, one, keeping the water away from the, not the natural rock, but the rock that the Chinese made on that gable there. It's just not a retaining wall, it's just a wall that's supposed to fill a gap there. And there's about, I would say, 5 to 6 yards of dirt up against that now that just washed off the hill. So we need to get that off there, probably a retaining wall and some type of ditch to get the water away from the building so it stops coming towards it. That will handle, water on top, on the surface water. If we have more winters like we've had in the past, like the last 2 years, there's not much we can do besides start piling rock up against the rock inside the building to stabilize it.
How do you know that you're talking about taking that dirt away from the backside? How do you know once you take that away, that's the only thing stabilizing that wall, and the thing just won't fall over?
It's sitting on the rock, that natural rock on the hill in the mountain.
So they think it's pretty stable?
Yeah.
And can I just add that anything we do, like Mark's talking about diverting water, I don't think that would be covered, because that's obviously not affecting the pre-loss condition of the building. So I don't believe that would be covered.
Even those to cause the water?
I mean, their job, insurance, is just to cover the building itself and the condition it was in prior to the loss. So I would say no, just as a, just from knowing the insurance industry, but I'm not positive on that. I could definitely look into it.
I think that's something we need to find out right away, because that is part of the problem with the water getting in the building, is washing out. So, and as that dirt gets heavy out, as water hits it, it turns into mud. As we all know, it starts getting heavier.
Mm-hmm. Has anybody ever looked at this structure?
I forget what Janet, the president of the Fiddletown Preservation Society, told me, but on occasion, they have people that have an interest of looking inside there, but you can see there's nothing in there. It's not a gambling hall anymore. And I don't know if she's zoomed in. I know Elaine Zorbis is here too, that can comment probably on how frequently the building is taken a look at. But you've got 3 of them out there. You've got the general store, the gambling hall, and the Chukey store. So this is one of 3 structures.
The county's had some affiliation with the Fiddletown Preservation Society since 1967, according to the original contract.
We do, and their contract for managing those properties ends in 28, I believe, currently. So we have an agreement with them to manage those properties.
28, then it was amended to 2011, in a 2011 agreement. Right. Personally, maybe it's because I don't have an attachment to it, but just looking at it, I'm not even sure if it's worth saving, to tell you the truth. It is history, but...
Is there any way we can mothball the building, for a future date if appropriate funding levels come around to do a renovation that's worthwhile? It doesn't sound like we can do that right now.
Well, you can. It doesn't prevent Mother Nature from continuing to.
Well, yeah. Do we have a solution to this problem? It doesn't sound like we do. It sounds like we have. Well, we could do this and we could do that. We can file our insurance, but we don't really have a solution that's going to fix it.
No, that's why we're here, because we want to know if you want to spend money to find that solution.
Well, that's what I'm saying is, can we mothball it so that it won't deteriorate any further and just wait until the future, so that the remains remain intact?
Sure, but it requires stabilization of that hill, and it requires money to do that. And according to the insurance here, they're not gonna pay for that. So you've gotta come up with the funding to move further than what we've done already.
Marco, you mentioned that one solution, maybe short-term, is to just pile rock in there to stabilize it at the bottom. I mean,
That might be our only solution.
yeah.
Because there's no way we're
To
gonna
talk
be
to
able-
what he's saying about mothball, then could you build a French drain, or is there just too much water?
On top of the hill?
Yeah,
Yeah, well, that's what.
because it would go in the creek then.
That's what the retaining wall is for, to keep the dirt from coming up against the building and behind the retaining wall, either a French drain or some type of trough to get the water away from the building, to go around.
Go horseshoe around.
Yeah, exactly. And there's no way we'll be able to get the building back up to the way it looked. There's no way.
Well, I understand that.
Yeah,
but-
so the mothball is pretty much the plan, just try to stabilize the building from deteriorating anymore.
Yeah, I don't want to get a historic preservation architect involved in this thing. I've been involved with Preston Castle for over 20 years, and you want to see your costs go through the roof, get the historic preservation architect involved.
I would agree. I would agree.
You know, I mean, here's where I'm coming from. Do I like the building? Sure, I love history. As far as trying to keep that, you know, historically intact and fix that, you're gonna have a hell of a problem. I don't wanna say impossible, but pretty close. I mean,
Gift that keeps on giving.
Well,
yeah.
Well, just to give you an idea, the museum roof, when you guys decided to do the museum roof, I had a conversation with the previous CAO, Terry Daly, but we spent $340,000 on that roof. So, yes, historic restoration is extremely expensive. So it's whether or not you want to do that, or as like Supervisor Axe or Mark are talking about, when I'm talking about stabilization or mothballing it, or spend any money on it at all and take a picture and let it leave things as they lie.
As I recall on our structure here, the more we opened it up, the more problems we found too.
You do.
Yeah.
And you know, I mean, if the Fiddletown Preservation Society finds a bunch of money, or they got a donor and they wanna go in there and do whatever, hey, I'd help them all I could. We've got roads that are in really bad shape that people travel on all the time. We don't have money for our roads. I'd have real heartburn over spending any type of substantial money on this structure from the county. That's kind of where I'm at.
It'd be one thing if this was a major tourist destination, but I'd be afraid to let people go in there because of liability.
So, I mean, as far as short-term, if there's a way we could, economically divert some of that water around that building, like talking about maybe doing a ditch, I'm okay with that.
I think you can get in a piece of equipment behind that. I'm worried about even having a piece of equipment behind there. You know, that weight alone, I think this is all handwork, potentially.
You gotta carry them rocks in there.
I met, 2 weeks ago, I met with, 7 different firms, from civil engineers to architects, to geologists. And all of them were kind of frowning on getting heavy equipment up behind that hill. And, you know, our property line isn't very far from that structure, so there's not a lot of room. But I'm being told that the neighbor is very accommodating. But let me.
It is pretty steep up there, as I recall, but I mean, if we decide to go that route, I'd say talk to Jeff Campbell or Ron LeBanco, and you probably get a pretty good opinion.
Yeah, no matter what, there's gonna be a lot of handwork.
Yeah. Okay. Seems like you could get an excavator in there with a long reach, and you may avoid putting all that weight on there.
It's kind of high and back there. We've looked at it a couple ways, and you can only get from it from one side, because then there's that metal building, which I don't even know what serves, is on the, let's call it the left side, and the right side is.
It's pretty steep back there, as I remember.
Yeah, it is. It is. And to do any work inside the building, you know, like to build it up with rock, that's gonna be all handwork, because there's no way to get any kind of equipment through that door that they have. There's only one way in and one way out.
So now you know why I brought it back to you guys, because resources are tight, money's tight. Just looking for direction from the board on how you want to proceed, or if all.
You still got that slip face there on that rock.
Yep.
Well, you know, maybe
Anyone
just,
hear from the public too?
yeah, at this time, that's what I was going, like to hear from the public. I see Elaine is here. You have any comments, Elaine? Hello?
Board of Society, and I'm also a historian in and of Fiddletown. I've done a lot of research on the town, and I thought it might be good just to kind of put the gambling house in the context of overall Fiddletown and overall Amador County history. It was once, as you know, there are 3 buildings in Fiddletown that are associated with historic Chinese areas of the city. That's really more than any other gold rush town in California, as far as we know. The buildings are unique, they're rare, and many Chinatowns throughout the state, they were everywhere, and then they were either destroyed by arson after the Chinese Exclusion Act, or vandalism, or development. So Fiddletown has one of the very few old Chinatown, remnants of an old Chinatown, I should say, including the Chukey store, which operates as a museum. And the gambling house is right across the street from the Chukey store. And they're a cluster of buildings. So there's the gambling house, a couple of lots east of that is the Chinese General Store, which the county acquired in, I believe, 2000. And then there's the gambling house. So there are 3 buildings. Now, Fiddletown always had a pretty large Chinese population from the very get-go. In 1862, 1863, a lot of Chinese were spotted there. We didn't have a census then, but if you look at the census in 1860 and 1870, the Chinese were close to 1/3 of the population of Fiddletown. By the 1880s, when the town was much smaller, they were half the population. And Fiddletown kind of got the reputation of being a Chinese town. So the gambling hall was constructed between 1855 and 1860. And as you observed, it's actually, the back wall is actually the rock face of the hill. And that building, that rock face, has held up for 165 years until the last couple of years when we had so much rain. The back part of the building is made of stone, and then it has a brick facing in front. So it's unusual in that way. Looking at the history of it, the earliest history is when the town site was, lots were assigned by a judge, and it was awarded to E. Fung and Company. Now we think that E. Fung is the same as Yi Fung, who is the herb doctor associated with the Chukey store. And his name is connected with the gambling house on assessment records until 1889. So we don't know how it was used initially, but we have found records in 1884 when it became the Phúc Tai Chong, or Fortune Peaceful Gambling House. And we actually found records of shareholders. One of the shareholders was Chukey across the street. And there was a lot of back and forth between the 2 buildings. We think that lottery tickets were made in the Chukey store, and they were then brought to the gambling house. And we actually have records that show, ledgers that show winnings from the lottery twice a day. They called it in the morning, during the day, and then in the evening. So it was quite an active place. Jimmy Chow, who was born in 1885, he's associated with the Chukey store. And he remembers as a young boy seeing horse riders race from the gambling house to Dry Town and Plymouth to deliver news of the winnings. He also remembers Sing Sing girls in the lobby of the gambling house. Now, those Sing Sing girls provided music and entertainment. So, when Shuki died, he died in 1913. Gradually, the Chinese in Fiddletown became depopulated of Chinese. The Exclusion Act, people getting old and dying and moving to other places. So he left the property, the gambling house and the Chukey store and some other buildings to Jimmy Chow, the last Chinese in Fiddletown. We have a story, you see, of all of the different owners. But Jimmy Chow became, Jimmy Chow died in 1965 at the age of 80. And after that, it became state property. The county initially declared both the gambling house and the Chukey store in eminent domain, went to the state, went back and forth. And as you see, we have a very early agreement between the Fiddletown Preservation Society and the county to care for the two buildings. However, very little was done with the gambling house during the interim. In the 1970s, it did get a new metal roof. And I think most significant, the gambling house, the Chukey store, and the other Chinese buildings, as well as other sites in Fiddletown, were placed on the National Register of Historic Places, which is significant. So not much was done until the early 21st century, our century. And the Fiddletown Preservation Society was able to get two very large state-generated grants, one from the Office of Historic Preservation, the other from a program called CCHE, California Cultural and, I always forget it, Cultural and Historical Endowment. And both of those buildings, the gambling house and the two-story brick Chinese general store, were in very bad shape. There were large fissures in them, in the brick. They had a lot of damage from water. And so with those grants, which probably along with contributions from the public were about $500,000, we were able to have exterior work done on both buildings. And the exterior work was to weatherproof and stabilize the gambling hall and the Chinese general store. And it also gave recognition throughout California that this was a very unique and rare Chinatown. So I want to kind of stress that all three buildings are really important as a testament to a very vital Chinatown that we once had, and to the Chinese who helped build Amador County. Now, going to the present, yes, it was quite a shock to, I was one of the first people that saw the landslide inside the building. And we do open it occasionally, rope it off in the beginning, in front for major events like the Fiddler's Jam. People can peek inside that building and the other building. But it also has a potential, and that was talked about when it was rehabilitated in 2008, of being a companion museum to the Chukey store. It's right across the street, and we do have many artifacts, both here and at the county archives, that could go in there. And if measures are not taken to stop the water damage, the wall is going to continue to collapse, and there'll be no way to ever rehabilitate that building, turn it into a museum. So it's part of our legacy, and I think it's something we have to pay serious attention to because it is a historic building. We have very few Chinatowns survived. Fiddletown has one of them, and it's notable. It's on the National Register. So I want to thank General Services for proposing that the water damage could be taken care of, and that the wall could be reinforced so that it doesn't collapse further, because otherwise we're going to lose that building, and ultimately part of our legacy will be
I
lost.
don't know if I heard him say the walls can be reinforced.
I was with Mark, and one of the proposals was that they didn't want to put the wall back together because such a big chunk had gone out, but they could use rebars and I forget the other term, another term, not concrete, but they would use rebar and other things to reinforce the walls after the water problem is solved, and that water problem would be probably through a retaining wall or something on the hill, certainly a French drain.
The problem I see, Elaine, is resources.
Yeah.
The Chu Key store is basically your museum up there.
Right.
Can we support a second one? I don't think so.
Well, looking to the future,
I'm looking in the future. I'm looking present and looking in the future.
Yeah, well, I'm thinking even beyond our lifetimes, perhaps at another time, it will be possible to make that into a museum. It was proposed by the architect after the restoration was done in 2008.
Was it Garviglia?
Garavaglia, yeah, Garavaglia. But that takes a lot of resources, and we've had other priorities too in the Preservation Society. We have 3 historic buildings plus the Fiddletown Schoolhouse to take care of. Now, we did get a new roof on the Chu Key store, which I think cost about $80,000, much of the money raised by the Preservation Society. I think $18,000 was committed by the county. We paid for a new porch on the Chu Key store, and
I don't want to go down the new porch, but I'm not a purist, but what was done pained me. I'll leave it at that.
I concur with you but it did get some drainage underneath, which was really important because the deck was sitting right on the ground. So there's now drainage for that. But we're not talking about the Chu Key, we're talking about the gambling house, which is a companion to the Chu Key and right across from it. And there really are not too many historical buildings in Amador County associated with the Chinese. I mean, 2 of them are up for sale, one in Volcano and one in Plymouth. So Fiddletown really has these 3 buildings that commemorate the people that helped build Amador County, and it is a tourist draw.
Something else you said, something about you look in the future, maybe when we were all gone.
Yeah,
that's part of reality. I mean, things go away. I'm not advocating the building will away, but sometime, and the original building will be gone. I mean, stone turns to dust at some point.
Oh, of course.
And I'm not advocating tearing the building down. Not at all. I'm just saying it's looking at the issues. I mean, I'd be kind of curious to look at it, just inside and look at it. But I mean, it looks like a real bear to me. Just look at the pictures and what I'm hearing from staff. Personally, I don't see making a bottomless money pit out of that building. Do I appreciate all the culture and the Chinese history there? Absolutely. But I don't see us going too far down that road of all expenses. Don't worry about the expense and keep going. I'm not going there.
Elena, have you reached out to the Asian community in the the Bay Area and places like that where they might actually want to contribute and support the restoration and maintaining? Or has anybody done that?
We are
the Chu Key store substantially, didn't they?
Yes, they did. And the Chu Key store, I should mention, also needs work. Its interior walls have big fissures and cracks. And we've been looking into, we've had a couple of consultants out. We've been looking into the expense of repairing those walls. And that would be certainly more urgent, not more urgent, but more of a priority than this. But I do think with the gambling hall, it can be stopped. The further deterioration of the walls can be stopped by controlling that water. A French drain, I think, is absolutely necessary. And probably a retaining wall on that very steep hill. And that would be the end of it. I don't think we would, be spending any other resources other than that and probably stabilizing the wall. There are some grants available, by the way. I was in touch with Karen Warburton, is that your?
Warburton.
Burton. There is a grant from the Office of Emergency Services for hazardous buildings, so there might be some other possibilities if the insurance doesn't come through.
Well, that's the question, do we want to use the insurance? I don't think we can use it. Our county staff said that it was not available for water intrusion.
I'd like to see that verified.
That was her statement from, talking to the insurance company.
That's really funny because water intrusion causes damage, so it's cause and effect. Doesn't make much sense. It's worth exploring. I would say it's worth exploring.
Most buildings aren't built into a hillside either.
No, the Chinese did that. No, that's true. That's true.
Okay.
Are there any other questions?
Nope, thank you.
No.
Okay, thank you.
Thanks for the history lesson.
Is there any other members of the public like to comment on this issue?
Well, John,
Gentlemen, what would you like to do?
well, I was gonna ask you a question, is
Yes, sir.
we don't have enough money, and the building's gonna fall down in some time. Would at least getting the price on the French drain to get rid of the water issue, to stave off the rest of it, where maybe they could get a grant or we could find some money. I realize that money's tight, but I would say we're talking around it. Lebenko lives right up the road. Get a price from him and see if we can even afford to do a French drain.
So one of the reasons we reached out to some engineers is to get their, and geotech in particular, was to get their advice on how to proceed, so we didn't create ourselves, staff create what we think would be a good idea, but ultimately end up causing more damage. I'm not really sure what to do with that, other than what Mark had suggested earlier. But we can certainly get costs for that, and maybe potentially engage a geotech, which is the lower cost amount there. I think they wanted about $6,200 to really evaluate the property to give some determinations on what could be done. But we're not engineers, so that's why we can do what we think should be done. We can load it up with rock on the inside. You could cage it. Digging a French drain in the back, though, I don't know if digging is gonna create more of a problem or not. Maybe getting a swale back there to divert the water,
And the problem is, if you get a lot of water, the whole hill's wet, it should go all the way through the swale, it hit that hard rock, and there's a sheet right down that hard rock right in that building.
It is, and so it's tough to figure out what really should be done and how far you wanna go.
The retaining wall would only fix the surface water. It would only, stop that.
Right.
If we get another winter like we did last year, the water table, it comes up, and there's no way to stop that.
Well, what does it cost to put a swale in? Doesn't sound like that'd be too complicated.
It's a little bit of work, because I really wouldn't recommend getting heavy equipment on that hill. So you are gonna have to do it by hand.
You'd have to do it by hand?
Yeah, I think so.
Do we know what the rock is made out of? What kind of rock it is? Because is it a crumbly type rock, or it's not granite, is it?
The natural rock?
Yeah.
It's crumbly.
I call it shale, but
Is it?
I'm sure.
Okay, so it's something that water inundates it, it crumbles.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The thing is, it's already started to slide.
Mhm.
So, that rock is everywhere around Amador County. Once one piece breaks off, it weakens the rest.
Mhm.
I don't know if you've dug any ditches around here, but once you get one piece out, it's a lot easier to get the rest out.
I haven't dug too many ditches, but I've dug a lot of post holes, so I know what you're talking about.
Yeah.
So it really, I mean, you want a limit, of money to spend? Do you want us to come back and do a little more exploration? We're running up against the urgency for Mark and I is that we, if you want to do something, we got to get going on it pretty quick because winter's around the corner, right? So,
Yeah, what are the few things that we can do that aren't terribly expensive to divert the water, and maybe some kind of wooden frame to keep it from crumbling on the inside, and then hopefully we can get some real funding to fix it.
The first thing we need to do is a geotechnical report. The two architectural firms that I had out there to look at it, both require that in order to design.
How much would that cost, do you think?
That's $6,200.
That's $6,200, okay.
And they would be doing some hand drilling, with small equipment, not heavy equipment, handheld equipment, to figure out where the rock is, what kind of dirt it is, so they can get that information to the engineers and architects to design something.
You know, but that's going down the fancy rat trap.
Exactly.
I wouldn't go there. I mean, if you get like a local guy like Lebanco or Campbell, they could probably almost tell you in a nutshell what the geotechnical firms are going to tell you. They're going to say, hey, here's your issue. So I wouldn't spend that money on that.
yeah, I mean, we can get a hold of those guys and or Lebanco, he's a local guy, as a quasi sort of immediate need to.
In an opinion, you know.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
And I think they could kind of tell you, hey, this is what you're up against, because they've done it for years. They know what they're looking at.
They may well tell you you're wasting your money. There's no way to fix it.
Right.
Realistic way.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Right.
I agree with you. You look at a project like this and you get a local contractor who's used to digging into different types of ground, he's gonna know what he's looking at.
So we can take that approach, and
The difficulty of doing that is following the public contracts code, where I'm not getting apples for apples if I get three different opinions on how we should do it.
like, we can handle it.
Because I don't support going the full Mary Ann route where, you know, geotechnical and RFPs for, you know, you give a $250,000 probably pretty quick.
Real quick.
On a historic building.
And this is kind of an emergency issue because they're talking about another La Nino fall. That we're originally talking September and probably moved it a little further into the future.
Are they?
Wouldn't a French drain be preventive maintenance?
Well, you keep talking about a French drain rather than a swale.
Or whatever.
Yeah, I think a swale would be much better so that the water is just, when it hits the ground, it's being diverted. Putting in a French drain, we're gonna be digging, and I don't know that digging's a good idea. But we'll talk to, local guys and get their opinion, and then if, it's gonna amount to any substantial amount of money, we'll bring it back to the board and let you know what we find.
You know, when you meet with them, if I'm available, I'd love to go and just hear what they have to say, and I'd like to look at it too.
Sure. Mark can arrange that.
Okay.
Okay. So we'll go from there?
Yeah.
All right, guys. We got direction.
Thank you.
All right, thank you.
We're almost at 10:30, so we'll go on with one more item. We got 4D, this is, minutes for August 13th, 2024.
Approval, there's a couple changes on the discussion with child support.
Did you submit that?
I only had one, you had another one too.
No, that was, you pointed that out, and I agreed that.
Okay.
The other person.
Two people that were here, it was listed that the executive director gave the report. She was not the one, it was the deputy director who gave the report.
Okay.
So with that, I'll move approval of the minutes.
Second.
We have a motion by Forster, second by Axe. Roll call.
Chairman Onetto,
Aye.
Vice Chairman Crew,
Aye.
Supervisor Brown,
Aye.
Supervisor Forster,
Aye.
Supervisor Axe.
Aye.
Carries unanimous. With that, we have a public hearing at 10:30, so we'll take like a 5-minute break and come back.
Yeah.
call this meeting back to order. And this is item 4C, this is a public hearing. And it's consideration and possible termination of the mine status and financial capability of the operator to complete reclamation obligations for Seton Mine pursuant to Public Resource Code 2773.1B, California Mine ID number 91-03-0026, APN 008-140-016. In May 2024, the mine operators bonding company issued a notice of cancellation, non-renewal of required financial assurance mechanism for mine reclamation effective October 1st, 2024. The statutorily required financial assistance has not been renewed, or replaced. Mr. Beatty?
Morning, Mr. Chairman, members of the board. Chuck Beatty with the Planning Department. As lead agency, the county has primary responsibility for enforcing our SMAR program, and in a nutshell, that process involves an annual mine inspection, usually in the fall, to make sure our consultants look at the mine and make sure that it's that they're able to reclaim it in a manner that's consistent with their reclamation plan. And then the operator will provide an annual or provide a cost estimate after the inspection on what it would cost to complete that reclamation. And then once our consultants and state staff have an opportunity to look at that cost estimate and approve it, then the operator will post a bond that covers the cost of, either covers the cost or exceeds the cost of reclamation. And that financial assurance is either in a form of a bond, a certificate of deposit, or a letter of credit that are both pledged to the county and to the state. And those financial assurances have to be continuous. They can't expire. It's not unusual for an operator to replace one, but they have to provide the replacement, get it approved before an existing one is released if they want to switch banks or bonding companies, and that happens annually for different mines for different reasons. But they have to be continuous and in place. In this case, in November of 21, the operator of Seton Mine provided the county and the Department of Conservation $20,000 bond to cover the cost of the reclamation of the Seton Mine, which was the same cost as their their annual cost estimate. In May of this year, we received a notice of cancellation or non-renewal for the bond that would be effective at 12:01 a.m. on October 1 of 2024. We've made numerous requests, and the state's made numerous requests to the operator to get a replacement bond in place, but to date, we have not had any good faith effort for that to occur. And the issue is, if it's allowed to expire on October 1st, then the county's subject to being financially liable to reclaim the site, because there will be no financial mechanism in place to force the operator to do that, and no clawback for us, no mechanism for us to reach back on and be able to collect that. Per the Public Resources Code, if we have evidence that the operator is financially incapable of completing the reclamation, we can hold this hearing, make that determination as to whether they're financially capable or not, and then proceed with forfeiture of their financial assurance and reclaim the site. A secondary issue here is that the operators, all of them, are required to file an annual report with the state, whether they're active or not, and then submit, there's a fee that goes with their annual production to the state. And that's not county money, that's state money, but if in the event that doesn't happen, the state will let us know, and we have to spend, staff resources to encourage the operator to comply with the statutes. And in this case, the operator's not filed those reports in 2021, 22, or the 23 operating years. An approaching cancellation date, no good faith effort to replace it, and the issue with not paying the required fees for the last 3 years could be considered financial incapability for reclamation. And then you could proceed with forfeiture of the bond and reclamation of the site. That's not a position that staff wants to be in or wants to approach, and this is only the third time in the near 50-year history of the county being the lead agency for SMAR that this has occurred. But if that bond's allowed to expire, then the county's potentially financially liable for the reclamation.
Mr. Beatty, I was just thinking, I talked to county council that My land is actually probably, depending on where you look, I have land approximately, half to 3/4 mile distance, so at this point, just out of caution, I can recuse myself from this matter. So, thank you.
Okay.
Okay.
That's fine. Yeah, one option you may have is you could continue this item for 2 weeks and allow the operator another 2 weeks to get a bond in place and reconsider this item at your first September meeting. But I would caution not to wait until the second September meeting, because at that point, there's only 3 working days left to collect or seize the bond.
Well, I think depending on what Mr., I think it's Gornet, is that correct, says, would this put a black mark on him if we just pull the plug and move forward?
Well, it would.
If it does, I'd rather not do that and give him the extra 2 weeks, depending on what he says today. Would it, if he says, I'm not sure I'm gonna be able to do it, and we pull the plug, I mean, would that kind of put a black mark on him in the future? And
we can authorize staff to do this up until the time it's gonna expire. Just because you approve it right now doesn't mean that we're gonna go pull it tomorrow.
Well, the board would have to make that finding of, that he's financially incapable of performing, and so if you're not going to make that finding, I mean, that's the finding you need to make, and if you're not prepared to make it today, then you can give him some short period of time. Under the bond, though, he's also in breach by not doing his timely reports. So it's not just the bond, it's the reports as well.
Correct.
do we even know if there was any activity in the last 3 years?
There's been minor activities, some not haul roads, but some roads graded in just to put, shop buildings, and there've been some exploratory work, but not significant, excavation or underground work, no.
So in 2 weeks' time, should he be able to get those, 3 years for back reports filed?
That should be adequate time and to get a bond in place. And it's not like it has to be, double bonded. That replacement bond could take effect on September 30th, and then that's adequate because it at least overlaps.
Okay.
No, I think that, we can give them a little time, and then, if it doesn't materialize, the reports and the replacement bond, then we have to pull the trigger and seize the existing one. I mean, that's just the way it is. So, how many days do we have till the expiration date of the existing one?
The expiration's midnight on October 1st, so September 30th is.
Okay, so why don't we hear from, the property owner or and then we'll see.
All right. Sure.
Good morning, everybody. How are you?
Morning.
Very good.
So, reclamation bonds have become somewhat problematic. Bonding companies don't want to write them any longer, and they don't want to write them in a county that's basically a fire zone. And we've been all converted in Amador City, Dry Town, Volcano, the places that I own property, to fire zones. So, our insurance has gone berserk for property and for housing, of course. And we are finding now that these bonds are more difficult to get. But that being said, I've got 4 brokers working on it. All of them have some options. I'm most sure right now about CCI, which is out of LA, and they seem to have a very robust bonding program that they feel that they can write the bond. Now, if we can get the bond written in whatever time period you give me, we will post the $20,000 in cash with the county. So I don't think that's a real issue. The face reports are another problem. My geologist is 86, I think, on his last birthday. That sound about right? David Sanders? He's old. He's old. He's still operating like it's 30 years ago. So I've had to find a new geologist to work on these reports, and I have her. Her name is Lucy Mulvey. She just sent me a proposal yesterday. I'll have her on board, and I'll have her work first on the back reports that we need to get to the state and the county. It's kind of a weird system on how, you know, you're supposed to know that you're supposed to have it in by July 1st, and we don't know all these things absolutely. And because we don't have clerical staff and we don't have a geologist on board right now, nobody's reminding us. So Chuck has reminded us, we'll get it done, and the Smara reminded us as well. So I think that with a little bit of time, we'll have all this in place very, very much timely.
Well, basically, I think you have 2 weeks to let us know if you're gonna get the 3 years of reports done, 21, 22, 23. And we need to know, I don't know, Greg, would that be sufficient if he posts, if he gives us $20,000 in lieu of not having a policy right now?
I'm gonna defer to Mr. Beatty on the allowable security. I assume that's...
Cash is no longer an allowable security. It has to be, because the state and the county have to be able to access it, and if it's in a bank that's in somebody's name that does it, or even in our, you know, our safe, that doesn't work for the state. A certificate of deposit will work, a bond will work, or a letter of credit will work.
So to give us time, Mr. Gornett, I think you got 2 weeks to get us a new bond.
And I would, Mr. Beatty may disagree, but I think, you know, the bonding issue is probably the more timely, needs to be addressed. And if he's making progress on the reports, then the board can give him more time on that part of it.
The bond issue is the crucial issue for us. Yeah. The bond is the crucial piece here.
But both need to be addressed.
So we need that in 2 weeks, and if we don't have it, that gives us time to go after the current bond, correct? And as far as the reporting, when would they have to be done by?
Well, it's in their best interest to do it as soon as possible, because the state will assess penalties and interest on, as long as those remain outstanding.
Ms. Mulvey will be on that as her first project for me. And we've already got a contract in place, so we're good to go on that. Well, can we get it all done in 2 weeks? I don't know. I'll have to ask her that, but I think she can get it done timely.
Okay. So if it's not done in 2 weeks, then we're gonna take these following actions to go after the current bond, the 20,000.
Well, the bond will be done. I'm talking about the reports.
Well, I'm talking about the bond. The reports, as he said, are not as time sensitive.
Right, no, I'm on the bond, we're on the bond. And if we can't get the bond, then we'll do the certificate of deposit, you said, right? So, we'll make it happen one way or another.
Okay.
I'll bet the penalties he has to pay in cash.
I guess we'll probably see you in 2 weeks then.
That sounds like a plan, guys.
So, yeah, I think the board should continue this public hearing to a date and time certain.
Leave this public hearing open.
Yes.
Okay.
So, I won't be present at that meeting, so Supervisor Brown, Crew, and Forrester are available. Is that sufficient to take action?
As long as Mr. Supervisor Brown is here in person, then he can count as a quorum. We'll need a quorum in person.
Okay, well, I'll probably be better by then.
I assume so.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right, I just wanted to run that by you just in case there's any gotchas before we
should be okay.
get down that road. All right, thank you.
All right. Thank you, gentlemen. So is it just the pleasure of the board to, do we need a resolution to keep it open?
We probably need a motion, I think, to continue it to date.
I'd move to continue the public hearing until September,
10th.
got a date?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So September 10th at
Yeah.
10:30 a.m.
Second.
All right, we have a motion by Forrester and a second by Axe to continue the public hearing to a date certain of September 10th, 2024. All in favor signify by saying aye.
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 Roll call.
Oh, roll call, I'm
Yeah.
sorry.
Okay. Vice Chairman Crew,
Aye.
Supervisor Brown,
Aye.
Supervisor Forster,
Aye.
Supervisor Axe.
Aye.
And
All right.
Chairman Neto is recused at the moment.
Motion carries 401, I guess. All right. We did the minutes, so with that, this meeting is adjourned. Thank you all for coming.